Chris Mack is back after serving a 6-game suspension. The University of Louisville men's basketball head coach Chris Mack will be back on the sidelines tonight as the Cardinals face their first road test against a ranked Michigan State team. We'll talk about that and a notable transfer for the football team on this episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Stay tuned.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back in to another episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. We want to take this time to say thank you for making us your first listen of the day. And just a reminder, the Locked On Louisville podcast is free on all streaming services, 5 days a week, your team every day. We couldn't have it the past couple weeks, but it finally, once again, it is a literal Wahman Wednesday. Once again, we have Cardinal Sports Zone co-founder Jeremy Wahman in the virtual set with us. Jeremy, what's going on, man?
In the building. I'm chilling. I'm in a good mood tonight. I can't really say why. Very jovial, very happy. I love that we got beaten down so bad in football. Let's go.
Well, we're going to talk about football at the end of the show, but for right now, it is the return of the Mac. Instrumental here. I wish I had that sound bite, but Chris Mack returns onto the Cardinals sidelines, and it couldn't be sort of a tougher matchup, traveling up to East Lansing, up into Sparty Lane to take on a ranked Michigan State team. We're going to talk about the overall thoughts on that matchup, along with some key players to watch for the Cards, keys to the game, final predictions, etc. And then, as most of you all are probably already aware, yesterday, wide receiver Jordan Watkins announced that he plans on entering the transfer portal and possibly leave the program. We'll talk about what that means for the wide receiving committee moving forward. Before we get into the content of today's show, you can follow both of us on social media. We have them in the graphic. I'm trying to point to the which. There we go. In the graphic below.
You gotta be a pro. You gotta be a pro.
Boom. Yep. At @dpence_ for me, at Jeremy_CSZ for him. You can also follow the podcast Twitter page at LO_Louisville. Let's get right on into the show. Before we get into the content, I want to take this time. I know both Jeremy and I, we kind of echoed this. Want to give our thoughts and prayers out to our buddy Brian Trent. Tweeted out yesterday that he has a cancer in his throat, and we wish him the best of luck in his recovery. Thankfully, it's doctors feel very optimistic that chemo can treat it fully and quickly. We wish him the best. We're praying for him. Brian, if you're listening to this, buddy, stay strong. Keep fighting, man. But let's get right on into it. The Cards, a good weekend, or good week last week against Mississippi State and Maryland. They face another tough week. Michigan State up first. The Spartans are now ranked after losing by, I think it was like 17 or so to Baylor. It's funny how that works. But Sparty is ranked, 2 losses to Baylor and Kansas. It seems like every time we play this matchup, the home team usually always wins for some reason, unless we're in the tournament and then Gorgui Zhang hits threes. What's your initial thoughts on this matchup? It's early in the season though, but how are you feeling, coming off of a week like last week in the Bahamas, coming into the first road test of the season?
Sorry, I'm looking at some land in Southern California right now and checking to make sure there's nothing popping off right there. Just trying to find some peace. Okay, sorry. I was reading some tweets. What was it? Can you ask? I'm sorry, I was so preoccupied right there. I'm so happy today. Can you re-ask the question?
Yeah, of course. I mean, first true road test. I can't speak. First true road test for the Cards, and it comes up in East Lansing, where like many other teams, Louisville has struggled when playing the Spartans up there, and coming off of a good week. What's kind of your initial thoughts? I know it's kind of hard with all of the the distractions, good or bad, from the football side of things. From the basketball standpoint, where's your head at?
I expect this to be a tough game, a tough matchup. I don't necessarily believe we'll walk out of there with the W. But what I will say is, and what I have said all summer, is that once this team gels and you see the chemistry going, they're going to be dangerous. And you started seeing that starting to happen during the Maryland, aka the Maryland is trash game from Saturday. Shout out to Joey there. And you saw them start to gel. Now, can they keep that up? I don't know. They're such a young team, and they may or may not. But I just feel like, and I feel like it's a possibility we may lose both games this week. NC State's no joke either. But I think, man, we need some good news around here. And a win up there would certainly be a kickstart off to a great 48 hours here in the Ville.
Yeah, for sure. And, we'll dive into this matchup more in the second segment. But I think that this is a good, initial test. It's what I keep, telling people on this show is that it's way too early to make any, true, not necessarily I guess I'm trying to make like initial observations. Obviously, you can make initial observations, but it's kind of hard to really get some takeaways on what this team is yet, especially now that this is their first game with the head coach. One thing that I'm looking forward to is, will the lineup change any for Louisville tonight, and will the rotation be any different? Will we see guys like J.J. Traynor more that we hadn't seen when Mike Pegues was acting head coach? But it goes to say, Michigan State in the first 7 games of their respective season, they are 5-2, 2-0 at home, losses to number 3 Kansas, number 6 Baylor. They have a ranked win over UConn, beat Loyola Chicago last week as well, who is a tough mid-major. But overall, I think it's a winnable game for the Cards. There's some things that need to happen. When you look at this week as a whole, though, you have Michigan State, and then you have a conference game at NC State. I mean, is the expectation 1-1? I mean, what's the real trouble? I know, obviously, you don't want to go 0-2, but, I mean, it is a tough week.
Yeah, and it's Coach Mack's first week back, so that's a really tough game to start off with. And to compound that with, let's say you do make some mistakes, you lose that game. So then you got to work through them against NC State. I mean, it's got all the makings of a 0-2 week. So if you can if you can win one of those, I think that'd be great, because I'm not expecting really to win either one of them. Not because we're not good, just because we haven't had Mac around. The chemistry's not all the way there yet. So that's just my expectations.
And they're both on the road. Don't forget, they're both
Absolutely.
on the road. That's the main thing. So I know the first segment hasn't really been all that long, but I know that the second, possibly third, are going to go over a little bit. So I want to go ahead and transition more into the an inside look at this matchup beneath the surface. Before we do that, I want to talk about our friends over at PrizePicks. If you are a college sports fanatic, you need to hear about PrizePicks. I love it, and I know you will too. It's a leader in college sports daily fantasy, offering more college football props than anyone in the world, while offering all of the star players of the Power 5, as well as mid-majors you might not have ever even heard of. It offers any props you can think of, from yardage to touchdowns, even interceptions thrown. All of those that deposit and use the promo code LOCKEDON will receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. So basically, you pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry. And it's literally just you versus the projected numbers. PrizePicks allows mixed sports entries, so you could take the over on Stephen Curry and combine that with the under on Patrick Mahomes in the same entry. Use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's safe. It offers fast withdrawals. So do yourself a favor right now. Don't hesitate. Check out PrizePicks.com and use the promo code LOCKEDON, or go to your App Store and download the app today. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. So, like I mentioned, it is a Wahman Wednesday. We're here with Cardinal Sports Zone co-founder Jeremy Wahman. Want to get a little bit, want to go a little bit further into this matchup. I want to talk about some keys to the game for the Cards. Some players or player to watch for that you're looking for the Cards, and a final prediction. So we'll start with the players to watch. A couple guys stood out to me in the Bahamas. I thought Dre Davis continued his good form. Sam Williamson stuck out as well, especially against Mississippi State. When you look at this matchup on the road, who's a player or a couple players that you kind of have circled as guys that could really have a good game tonight?
So I'm signing up for season tickets next year for Louisville football. So I apologize. I'm a little distracted.
You're
What's
the
that?
worst. You're the best.
Just saying, I'm excited now. I've had some conversations today. Shout out to my squad. Uh, here's who. Here, you asked who should who to look for tonight. Here's who I think is most importantly steps up tonight, and it's Jae'Lyn Withers. He said such a rough. I know it's been 6 games, whatever,
Mhm.
but he has not been 6 games into the season what we thought he would be. So I think it's most important that we see him correct his mistakes, right his wrongs, and with him, I think he gives us a good. If he's playing to his potential, which I hate that word because it insinuates that sometimes people don't give enough effort and sometimes they do. I'm not saying that at all, but if he plays the way we know he can play, he can be the difference maker in this game. I would also say I've also been really, really happy with what I've seen out of Jared West. He was making some mistakes early on in the season that he started to fix these last early in the season, 6 games. In the first few games of the season that he started to fix. I pointed this out to our guy Steve. Like the last basket he hit versus Maryland, he was going to the bat, and what he's done the rest of the season is he's either slowed down and hesitated so much that his shot got pitched, but you could see him. He went to the basket, he stopped for just about a half of a second, and he's like, wait, no, and it laid it up, and then ended up being not the game winning basket like at the buzzer, but it ended up being the go ahead basket.
Right.
And I think it's important that he stays getting better, improving every game.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned Jae'Lyn Withers because although he's not the player that I have my focus on for this game, I do agree that it's time for him to kind of shake off those early season woes and get back into the form that he ended last season with and be able to take that next step forward because he's a guy that we pinned as one of the players early in the preseason. Like, hey, we need this guy to step up and possibly be a number one scoring option. Now, thankfully, Noah Locke has kind of risen into that role, so to speak, in a small way. But I think that Jae'Lyn Withers is definitely a guy that we have to focus on and see about getting him more comfortable. I do want to ask you, though, we saw Withers at the 5 last year because Malik had the issue with his foot for pretty much all but 3 games. And with him playing the 4 with Malik, I know the benefits that come with it, with both them being plus ability passers. Does Withers need to be at the 5? I mean, because I worry about his lack of lateral quickness, so to speak, at the 4, and I wonder if Malik Williams in the paint kind of serves as a little counterproductive. That might just be me overanalyzing. Do you get that sense, or do you think it's kind of a moot point?
I'll be honest with you. I think I can see where you're coming from. I do think maybe he is. I don't know, man. Malik is just even in a small sample size, and I hate doing this because it's like, man, the whole season he's been. We're six. Calm down, Jeremy. We're 6
6
games in,
games.
but Malik has just shown everything so far this last 3 games that I've wanted to see from him the last few years, and he looks healthy. I think we have to figure out a way if it is if you are correct and it is hindering him being at the 4, we got to figure out a way to make that work because Jae'Lyn's a man beast and he can be the difference maker. So I just feel like it's important that we figure out a way to get them both on the court playing at the highest level at the same time, and we'll be very successful if that's the case.
I like that take. And I also think you could, how Malik it kind of is. Well, he is the 5, but he also kind of plays in the small ball lineups at the 5. I also think we could see Withers in those lineups as well, depending on certain situations, certain matchups. For me, the player to watch, I think it's Sam Williamson. I think that he played extremely well against a Mississippi State team that rebounds the ball well, and we saw that he was engaged on both ends of the court. Mississippi State is a team that when you look at what they're doing statistically, they don't necessarily have one star, but in terms of rebounding the basketball, I mean, they have, I think it's 5 guys that average over 4 rebounds, so they rebound kind of 1 through 5. It's more of kind of by committee approach. So I think that having a guy like Sam Williamson, although he's not necessarily a true big, what he can bring to the table, if that's in the mid-range game, opening up the perimeter shooting, or in the defensive side of things. Moving on to the keys to the game, one statistic that I want to propose to you: Michigan State is number 21 in the country in rebounding margin. They out-rebound their opponents on average by about 10 per game, and they've played some pretty solid competition this year. You're shaking your head.
That's not going to happen tomorrow. Even if we don't shoot the ball well, we will not be out-rebounded. That's one thing I have been very impressed. I mean, there was like 1 or 2 of the games where we didn't rebound very well, but didn't we out-rebound Maryland like 62 to?
It was the biggest rebounding margin since the title year in 1986. We doubled them in rebound.
On the offensive boards, it was like 17 to 1 or 2.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It was stupid. That's not going to happen. That's what's going to keep us in the game. That's what kept us in the game against Maryland. We may not do a lot great right now, but rebounding, we got to cut the turnovers up. That's got us. That's been so frustrating. And that's the reason why a lot of these, the one we lost because of turnovers. We got to cut those down, but no, we will not be out rebounding.
What I mean, do you is that the key to the game for you? Just taking care of the basketball. I think it is the same for me, because even in the wins against Maryland and Mississippi State, there were stretches to where when the Cards offense went extremely cold. I mean, like brutally cold, Siberia cold, couldn't score from the field cold. I feel like a lot of that could be contributed to, number one, just not making shots, but number two, just not taking care of the ball all that well. But final prediction, is Louisville going to come out victorious against Michigan State on tonight?
On tonight. Well, Dalton, on tonight, I feel like, gosh, man, this is so tough for me, because even as we sit here and talk about it, I start to change my own mind. But I think it probably ends up being 76-70 Michigan State.
And that's fair. I think that, like I said, this is a matchup to where I think the home team usually – what's that?
It hurts to do that.
I agree. And Michigan State's kind of like one of those unsung rivalries that we don't necessarily consider a true rivalry, but every time we play them, we're like, dude, I want to win this game. It's like Purdue in basketball, so to speak. But when we look at –
before we go any further, do you like pass-heavy offenses? I'm just looking at some stuff on in my.
You talking about football?
Yeah. Pass heavy offense.
I mean, I don't hate them. I mean, I like seeing offenses that throw the ball over the field.
Come on, man, don't be jeffing. I need to know your honest truth. You like the pass heavy offense? Okay, all right, let's go. I'm sorry. I'm happy, man. I'm pumped. I'm ready to go.
Yes,
I can't wait to talk about football at the end.
Yeah, but I think it's the home team who wins this game. If this game's in Louisville, I think if we win it, but it's up in East Lansing, so I give Sparty. I'm going to go. I think it's going to be a close game. They're going to win by 4 on a couple late free throws. Before we get into the football side of things, specifically focusing on Jordan Watkins and what his entering the transfer portal may mean for the wide receiving committee moving forward. First, I want to talk to you about a couple of our friends. The first one being at BetOnline. Back and better than ever, a new web interface for the start of the basketball season, and more props, odds, lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all of the basketball and football action. Head to the new updated desktop or mobile website today to sign up and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit by using the promo code LOCKEDON. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports, and BetOnline is where the game starts. Also want to talk to you about our friends at Built Bar. If you haven't tried a Built Bar by now, you are simply missing out. They say it's a protein bar, but it simply doesn't taste like one. You have to try one to believe it. For me, most protein bars are chalky, waxy, sometimes even plain hard to choke down, but a Built Bar is soft. It's covered in 100% real chocolate, and when you bite into it, you know you're eating something different. It's more of like a candy bar, something that you'll enjoy, but it's low carb, low calorie, low fat, low sugar, high in protein. So you get all the healthy benefits on top of just being purely delicious. Another great thing is the variety of mouth-watering flavors. My favorite is salted caramel. They have double chocolate, coconut, mint brownie, coconut almond, cherry barcia. The list goes on. This month, Built is coming out with new limited-time flavors every 3 to 4 days, so check their website out often. You don't want to miss out. Go to Built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off your first order. Once again, LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. So, final segment, we put football off last with the basketball game tonight, but there has been no shortage in football news in the past couple of days here in the Derby City. One of those things.
My DMs, man, that's crazy.
Wow, I respect your privacy, but
oh man,
but Jordan Watkins, Louisville native, wide receiver, Tuesday afternoon announced that he was, or morning, I think it was the morning, announced that he was planning on entering the transfer portal. Came as a shock to a lot of people because, he was considered, pro-Cardinal. A couple schools in the mix that the Cards aren't necessarily fond of that are, could be in line for his services should he choose to go elsewhere. For this exercise, I want to play the hypothetical game as if he were leaving and going somewhere else. Obviously, we don't know yet. It's still very early. For the wide receiver committee in general, Louisville is a team that doesn't necessarily have a true number one, in my opinion, especially not this season. It's very balanced in terms of what, the passing distribution, stuff like that. How big of a loss would Jordan Watkins be if he decided to go elsewhere?
Well, that would be a big loss if that were to be what happened. But as I tweeted out earlier today, just as easy as you jump into the transfer portal, it's just as easy to hop right back out of it. So,
you do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around.
Absolutely. Shout out to whoever commented that on the thread.
I saw that. I saw that.
But I'm not going to say anything because I know, and you know what I can't.
I know, and I know you know, and
look, I know, and I know you know that I know you know I know. But
right.
I fully expect him to be a Louisville Cardinal next year.
Well, that is good to know, and if that is to be the case, obviously right now we're just speaking in a hypothetical sense. If he were to come back, let's just focus on if he were to leave for a player that was pro Louisville, and he ends up transferring and it possibly being to a school like dare I say who it might be. If he transfers away, yes, from an optic standpoint, it looks bad. But what Watkins brings on the field, and I'm not meaning to diss him at all. I'm not, trying to undermine what he does on the football field. With Louisville's offense, I mean, you can't necessarily blame receivers, so to speak. And that's not just Louisville. Any offense that is really kind of dominated by the run, I mean, you can't necessarily be surprised when a wide receiver at least wants to look elsewhere, right?
Right. I mean, Dez suffered in this. He somehow still got the big numbers he got despite being held back by the system. Tutu flourished in the system because he was the only target every play for the most part. So, yeah, I mean, it's not the current offense that we have as of December the 1st, 2021 is a stagnant, slow, rush-heavy offense. Now, the offense that we have on Saturday, December the 3rd, will it be the same? Or Saturday, December the 4th, will that be the same? I hope not. Who knows? But, I do. But the offense that is currently in place at Louisville is not conducive to any receiver that wants to get 100 catches and 1,000 yards receiving every year. It's just not going to happen.
I definitely agree, and like I said, that's no slight, truly to the coaching staff because, I mean, I remember, for those who are not aware, I mean, I am an LSU fan as well. So when we had Les Miles, there were receivers that 5-star receivers, which kind of just pop out of the woodwork in Louisiana. They come to LSU and they transfer out unhappy because they just don't get the targets that they deserve. And I mean, that's just kind of the case with rushing attacks. But with that being said, the game is tonight with Michigan State basketball-wise. Tomorrow, however, keep an eye out to women's basketball. Number 12 Michigan visits the number 10th ranked Cards in a Big Ten ACC matchup early on in the season. That is at the KFC Yum Center. Football-wise, what's true right now Wednesday morning might not be true Wednesday night. What's true Wednesday night might not be true Saturday morning. I mean, everything. That's the bad thing about recording these shows, is the fact that it seems like there's so many moving parts going on right now. And obviously we're not going to speculate. We're not going to come out and say anything. What's real is what's real in this moment.
Did you say Saturday?
Yeah, after you said Saturday.
Saturday?
I just went off your Saturday comment.
Well, my Saturday sounded more like the day. Yours sounded more like you was trying to get clever with the Saturdays or for the car. Okay.
Oh, I completely didn't even pass. That didn't go through my mind. But
so glad we won't be saying that much longer.
With that being said, Jeremy, love having you on, man. If anything were to break here in the next week or so, I'd like to have you on quicker than next Wednesday to do a reaction. That is assuming that something happens. Obviously, we're just playing the hypothetical game at this point in time. But as we mentioned earlier, do want to extend our thoughts and prayers out to Brian, speaking of women's basketball and what he does with the Off the Walls podcast. I mean, definitely follow along with that. Prayers up to him in his battle with cancer, a very ugly disease, as you and I both know, Jeremy, and as many, probably everyone that's watching this right now. But I want to give a couple quick shout-outs, ironically, first to the Cardinal Sports Zone podcast. That most recent episode dropping on Sunday evening just a couple of days ago. You can find that at cardinalsportszone.com. Every single sport, go follow that coverage. Volleyball begins their tournament run on Friday. Cardinal Sports Zone has the best volleyball coverage in the media right now in this state and time. And then just overall, it's a big week for Louisville sports. Definitely a lot of content. Before we get out of here, Jeremy, I would say plug us into your social media. But your personal one is right there. Give us a drop into Cardinal Sports Zone's social media.
Yeah, it's at Card Sport Zone. Facebook, it's Cardinal Sports Zone, 3 separate words. YouTube, it is Cardinal Sports Zone, 1 word. I do want to also echo your thoughts and prayers for Brian, but I also want to extend my condolences to the Satterfields. He lost his father this past weekend prior to the football game. So, it's all love around here. Even if we don't agree with you, even if we're not happy with you, we're still going to rock with you as long as you're our head coach. So, just from the standpoint of being a kind human being, we want to send our thoughts and prayers. There will be no game day prep this week. I know you noticed that it didn't come out this morning like it normally does. That's because we're gearing up for our special 100th episode of the Cardinal Sports Zone podcast, and it's going to be a throwback episode with the initial members of the Cardinal Sports Zone podcast, which is myself, Justin Rink, and Steve Rummage. Justin from Card Chronicles, Steve from 93.9 The Ville. And, man, I love pass-heavy offenses. That's how I want to end the show. I love pass-heavy offenses, and I think I'm going to be happy soon. So,
Yes. But that's going to basically wrap up this Wahman Wednesday edition of the show. Everyone have a great day, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.